Thanks, you guys. I appreciate it.
I want to say home rule. It's not home rule.
All right, Twyla. Oh, we got a red dot.
Game on.
Sorry.
Council meeting November 13, 2018.
I'll open up the town council meeting for November 13th. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All you, Twyla.
Okay, Councilor Albert.
Here.
Councilor Colby. Here. Councilor Brunel.
Here.
Councilor Ward.
Here.
Councilor Lund.
Here.
And Councilor Crawford.
Here.
So Councilor La Rochelle is excused. Is there a motion to approve that?
Yes, I need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
He is out of town. I need a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Who seconded?
Right here.
Oh, thank you. 7-0. 6-0.
Next, Twyla.
Is good news and recognition.
We got one. Where's Stanley?
Oh.
Mr. Ray, can you play the plier to Flat Stanley for us? You got your camera?
Yeah,
Where is this from?
this is from New York. This is a little boy's kindergarten class. They send these out so that Flat Stanley can go on an adventure.
Actually, take a picture of Mr. Ray at the podium. And then
With
Mr.
Stanley?
Ray, take a picture of us.
Thank you.
One the other way with Flat Stanley. Hold him right up there for you.
That's all right. Sorry, everybody.
Oh, we've done
You
worse,
from?
so it's all good.
It's from New York, you said?
Hey, that's okay. Maggie's got a similar Flat Stanley project, and right now, Flat Stanley's in Massachusetts. He's been down there
Yeah?
doing some things. So.
Did you at least get the town of Lisbon? See
Good job.
Thank
Ray.
you.
Pink baby hucked across the room
Yeah,
comes to
pink
mind,
baby.
but that's a whole different deal. Does anybody else have anything for good reason recognition tonight?
Pink baby goes to Vegas.
Good news has got to go out to all those who re-ran and won.
This is,
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
this is true. That said, I'd like to thank the town voters for getting out. We had a very large turnout. What was the percentage, Twyla? I know
60, almost close to 61%. I would say 61.
it was busy throughout the entire day, so thank you to the town. Thank you for the voters' support to be able to pass the bonds, and thank you to the workers that actually are very productive today. Thank you.
Even Rick Roberts.
Right, even Ricky. A little slow at the end of the night. I remember the tape being earlier, but that's a whole separate issue. All you, Twyla. Moving right on.
Public hearing, a special entertainment permit for the Slovak Catholic Association.
Anybody wishing to speak on behalf of this item, please step forward. Seeing no movement, we'll close the public hearing. Next.
Audience participation and response for agenda items.
Anybody wishing to express anything to the council that's on the agenda, please step forward. Again, seeing no movement in the room, we're moving right along, Twyla.
Under the consent agenda, any counselor wishing to have any item removed may do so now. Items removed from the consent agenda will be considered next. Seeing none. Municipal accounts payable and payroll warrants. Number 1022, 2018, $6,551.50. Number 1030, 2018, $14,251.23. Number 34 for $194. For $363,536.40. Number 36 for $188,502.65. Number 37 for $16,931.29. Number 1113 2008 for $36,329.37. The school accounts payable and payroll warrants. Number 1019 for $338,963.28. Number 1020 for $11,130.64. Number 1021 for $326,679.97. Number 10 for $3,730.91. Number 11 for $6,872. Number 1022 for $359,175.43. Number 1023 for $11,260.78. Plus the workshop minutes for October 30th. And to ratify the November 6, 2018 election results. And to approve the special entertainment and liquor license for the Slovak Catholic Association. Plus set a public hearing on December 4th for the Coombs Mountford American Legion Post number 158 for a special entertainment, and to set a public hearing on December 4th for Waltz Place for a new liquor license.
I need a motion.
Make the motion.
I need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Order passed 6-0.
Next.
Under Council Orders, Ordinances, and Resolutions, Order 2018-244, an audit presentation.
Good evening. I'm Ron Smith, principal with RHR Smith & Company, and I believe you have in front of you the summary of about 100 pages of the municipal audit that we've condensed into about 8 pages, and I'll hit the highlights of it for you. And first thing that I would say is that every year I think that the process gets better. I think that the communication gets better. I think that the understanding and the people that are sitting in the chairs that are part of the process certainly have responded, and the fact that we're here in November and not January or February having this conversation, I think is more the reflection on, of the process getting better and certainly getting to best practices. And I know that your members of the school are here, members of the municipality are here, so they can certainly, I hope, would attest to that. But the process is getting better, continues to get better. We're not dwelling in weeds anymore. We're focusing on problems and best practices, and I think that, this year was probably one of the better years in addressing some of those. But to sum it up, what you have in front of you is excerpts from the actual full town audit. The town's financial position in 2017, so I'm going to jump around a little bit to get back to home. The town's total financial position in 2017 was about $5.7 million, and it went down to $4.5 million. One would say, wow, we dropped $1.2 million. That was planned spending. A lot of that money last year was dedicated and set aside for capital reserves. You knew where it was going. You knew what it was for. So that was the drop in the fund balance. Your unassigned fund balance went down to about $2.5 million, which is still within your fund balance policy, from about $3.5 million. It went down $1 million. And it went down $1 million because of planned commitments for the town for projects in fiscal year 18-19, that you budgeted for. So what's the best way I can say it? Your fund balance is exactly where you expected it to be and still well within your policy. And you have spent over $2.5 million in the past couple of years on earmarked, dedicated town projects. The school fund balance went up. I believe last year was about $600,000. I believe it's going to go up to about $630,000, this year. So that's an indication of budget control certainly over there. There was a windfall that the school got in 17-18, as all other school systems in the state, when the state divvied up, I call them rebates. The state won't call them that, but they refunded you, some of their money in the form of their education subsidy payments. What the school budgeted for last year for state subsidy was about $8.4 million. It actually received about $8.8 million, and of which you guys used, I think, for $200,000, immediately off your assessment, and the school actually received the whole $400,000. One thing that we learned from the school very recently is that, this year with the change, is that when the school budgets for its subsidy payments, this year in 2017-18, the state actually reconciles main care with the school. So the Department of Human Services submits to the Department of Education basically all the reconcilement for all the kids, that it's paying for and subsidizing out of the state. It actually withholds that from your subsidy if it's a duplicate payment. So you will not see the $400,000 you'll see the $400,000 of revenue, but there was about $100,000 of main care payments, that were actually withheld from the subsidy, deducted from that because of how the state now reconciles their main care payments. And Haley and I certainly on top of that, and that's something that we'll talk with the school going forward with future budgeting process. But I would say it's fair to say that the school knew exactly, where it was in budgeting, and their fund balance is certainly strong, and I think, culmination of that and where the town's at, you're right where you are, and right where you need to be, and more importantly, you're right where you're expected to be and where you were told you were going to be, throughout the course of the year. So, your water fund, I think is the other big piece of this. That's in financial good standing. I believe that the equity actually increased. It's about $650,000. We actually present it on December 31st because that's its fiscal year, but we don't want to qualify your report. But this information that we present in your town audit isn't on your fiscal year. It's on their calendar year. Right. And that's what they reported on their calendar year. I'm just not privy to where they're at this year. So. We talked about many, many best practices here, from how the town handles its fund. I know recreation was a topic of best practice over there in certain billings and how they collect recreation fees for its program. We had some payroll matters. We have reported, that in a separate management letter to you all. There's nothing here that would warrant me raising my hand, crying fire, that we didn't see anything to that level of magnitude here. Everything that was found, either you found it or it was caught and addressed immediately, and the same for the school. We talked about a lot of best practices over there, including student accounts, which I know was a big topic of conversation for many years over there, and I think that there's some new practices over there between the student accounts and food service that we've looked at hard this year, and I would say that will only increase the efficiencies of the school budget going forward and the efficiencies of that internally, but I would still, again, say that they knew where they were, too, and certainly a lot of the comments and suggestions that we talked about, they were had either implemented or implemented based on our conversations. So all in all, I think that the direction points up. I think the people that are sitting in their chairs to this town council and to that school committee are giving you good business information timely so that you can make good business decisions. And that hasn't always been the case on the town side, in the past. But we can definitely say huge improvement again, and I think kudos to all the people that are part of this process. So,
looking at your management letter, the first couple of items are repeat from last year. I'm looking to see Lydia in the back as well. Chart of accounts, Munis should be fixing that because that was part of the task already. The reconciliations, is it improved from last year?
Much. Instead of taking, and I think that everybody in this room could talk about the process of weeks of making sure what happened over at the school mirrored what happened in the town, days. So it's gotten better. And I think that we've talked about and come up with some other options to make it better this year and consolidating some banking information here just to streamline some things. What do I mean by that? School lunch money getting deposited and then given back to the school, into the town coffers, back to the school. Just simple things like that. I think that that will help that process better, for sure, Alan,
Sure.
much better.
Purchase orders, workflow? So that one's in recreation. Is it a significant amount of money?
What do you consider significant? It was not.
Your threshold would be about the same as mine. So if you consider it significant, we're good. That's what I needed to hear. Okay. And you've already taken corrective action on all of the aboves. So what I'm liking hearing is we're year 3 on this. We're not looking in January. This is 2 years back to back, and we're taking proactive steps and looking at other things that we can do to improve the entire process.
We're talking about best practices now,
Yeah.
not how the numbers getting on the paper anymore,
right.
about best practices. And that's always, if I'm in your chairs, and I've sat in those chairs before at another place, that's the position you want to be in, knowing that there's always this improvement and that the information coming across to you all, certainly is information you can rely on and make your business decisions.
Right.
And that has definitely improved.
You concur with that? How about school side? Rick, you guys, you seeing the same benefit? I know it doesn't set you back with actually putting the budget and everything else. We're not dealing with the extensions and all of that we were just a few short years ago. So I'm liking seeing what I'm seeing at this point. That's why. Any other questions? The auditors, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you.
It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you, sir. We'll give him a sign.
That was easy.
Oh, I like it when we get a good grade.
Yeah.
Everybody's leaving happy.
Makes it
Like to see.
so much easier conversation.
That's it.
Right. All right, next item.
Order 2018-245, the December 24th office closure.
Since December 24th falls on a Monday, we'd like permission to close the offices, the town office, the rec department, the transfer station. Oh, that's already closed on Monday, but the library, and allow the employees to use accrued leave to have that day off.
We did similar last year, right?
We usually do it if it falls on,
The one or the other.
yeah.
I'll make the motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Order passed 6-0.
Next item.
Order 2018-246, the Durham ACO contract.
You have before you the ACO contract. It's a 3-year contract beginning January 1st. They have not been with us for the last 3 years, and now they want to come back, and we do have an interim contract with them right now. So what we've done with this contract is we've added an indemnity and insurance clause that wasn't in there prior, and a non-appropriation clause because they have to go in front of town meeting every year, so they can't commit to a 3-year contract because of their funding. And we added some more termination language, and Dan Stockford's reviewed all of this and feels we should sign it the way it is, and it has been in front of their board.
Yeah, the insurance thing was the only thing that I read to make sure that I understand that when even though it's going to say Lisbon on the truck when we're working over there, if it's a Durham-related issue, then the responsibility or liability falls there on Durham and not on us.
Right.
Something goes south.
If they have to go before their council for funding on an annual basis, how did they get to this to get through the temporary to get them through January? How did they get the exclusion on what we signed for the temporary agreement?
They must have had money in their budget
Okay.
for the last few months of the year. Because they had somebody that was doing the ACO, and then something happened, I don't know, but they had to have
Okay,
had
so
funding.
something was budgeted, so they had a short-term
Right,
relationship to be able to address
exactly.
it to get to here.
Right.
Okay. I'm assuming it's going to be similar to what Bowdoin has to go through
Exactly.
annually.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, the ACO contracts have a funding portion to pay for the vehicle when a new vehicle actually comes. Is there one in this contract, and how does that work?
No, that would be outside of the contract that we would negotiate with both the towns.
So how does it work now with Bowdoin, per se, to be able to make sure, because I know when the first year we were on the council, we bought the new vehicle to be able to do that, and we've allocated the funds that were already set aside for that purchase.
Right.
What mechanism in that contract has that?
There wasn't anything in that for the new ACO vehicle.
Right.
There wasn't anything in a contract. That was
just an agreement.
it was just an agreement between the towns, and Chief Brooks handled it that way. And it was, I don't think Bowdoin even contributed. It was just Sabatis agreed to contribute. And that's the way they had done the previous vehicle.
Okay, so they did it,
Yeah, they did it the same way they had
so
done.
it wasn't funds that were set aside, I misunderstood then, in that regard, they paid a percentage based on
Exactly.
utilization.
Right, and we use the ACO fees that we have in a reserve account to pay for that, and then Sabatis paid back. And they did a 3-year commitment. They appropriated money for 3 years in a row to pay us back their share.
So I would assuming anybody that's in that pool, the next time we go looking
So
at
we'll
that, you
talk
would
to
handle it
them.
that way?
Yes.
Okay.
yes.
Okay, I misunderstood. Any other questions on the contract that we see, now that we're seeing the full?
I'll make a motion.
I need a second.
A second.
All in favor?
Order passed 6-0.
Next.
Ordinance 2018-247, the adoption of the medical marijuana licensing emergency ordinance. This is the first reading. A roll call vote is required.
And the reason we have the emergency ordinance is so that we have something in place when the land use chart goes into effect, which will be on the 20th of November. And followed on the agenda will be a first reading of a permanent ordinance. And when that ordinance goes into effect, the emergency ordinance will be repealed.
And
We need to cover ourselves so we have something in place.
in the interim.
Yeah.
And to rehash where we stood at the last meeting, the handout that we have that's in our packet is no different than the one we got for information that night. Is it the same content? Or has there been revisions since Dan?
Are you talking? There has been one small revision.
What was the
I
revision?
don't think I had anything for you at the last. We
Yeah,
did
actually,
at this
you dropped this on the desk the night of.
Oh, okay.
We covered in the discussion because what we highlighted there was we talked about
Yep.
the only thing anything that was discussed potential would be the fee.
Right.
Your recommendation for 250 versus the 100 that we were. I see the 250s in here, but what was
Yep,
the change
so-
from that night?
So what else we did was we added under definitions, disqualifying drug offense, and we put a definition to that.
And that would have come from legalese from Dan?
Yes, that came from Dan, and disqualifying drug offense means a conviction for a violation of a state or federal controlled substance law that is a crime punishable by imprisonment for 1 year or more, but does not include an offense for which the sentence, including any term of probation, incarceration, or supervised release, was completed 10 or more years earlier. Or 2, an offense that consisted of conduct that would have been permitted under the Maine Medical Use of Marijuana Act. So that's a new definition. We just defined what a disqualifying drug offense is. Under the application, we added the fee that the person would pay for the license is non-refundable, so we added non-refundable to that. And then under number 9, evidence, these are all things that have to be presented when the application is presented to council. We have certain things that has to be turned in with the application. And evidence of all land use approvals or conditional land use approvals required to operate the medical marijuana establishment. We added or applications that have been filed and are pending for the required approvals. There may be a time that the planning board hasn't acted yet, and we didn't want to hold up this process, so that's why we added that. So as long as there's been an application in front of the planning board, but maybe they have, because they have to do the public hearing on their end, there might be, we're just trying to streamline it. So as long as the application's been in, but at the end of the day, you won't be able to approve it until the planning board has approved theirs with conditions.
Somebody can do the licensing
Right.
at the same time as the planning board.
Right.
Okay.
But the way we had it before, if we didn't add that additional language, you wouldn't be able to even set a public hearing until the planning board had rendered their decision. So we're kind of streamlining
So
it
it
for the
takes 2
applicant.
meetings to potentially 4.
We can
Right.
set our timeline without beholding to and having to wait for them to complete theirs,
Exactly,
yeah.
yeah, so. And then under 10-607, action on application, the public hearing, we changed the 10 days of putting the notice in the paper to appear in the paper 10 days to 7 days prior to the date of the scheduled public hearing.
And that's that more consistent with what we have in
Yes.
actuality?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a quick question, if it's okay.
No, please.
Why does the town need written consent for the owner for any other business? For whatever business, if they're leasing property and they start a business, does the town need written consent?
We're requesting that the owner gives written consent of that business on that property.
Is that for every business that's in town, or is that just
No, this is just for
specific to this?
just to the medical marijuana establishments, that's it.
We did it for pawnbrokers.
Did you do it for pawnbrokers too?
They had to submit a letter from that owner.
Yeah. I don't know, I just don't think that's any of our business. I think that's between the owner and the person who's renting the property, but.
And then under section 10.6.10, standards for approval, number 6, has been convicted of a disqualifying drug offense. We did have any misdemeanor or felony crime in the 10 years immediately preceding the application. We struck that and just added a disqualifying drug offense. And then on the last page, the annual license fee, we put at $250 for everything. And those are the
Equated to
changes.
more the pawnbroker, not,
Right, yes.
which is what you. Councilor Crawford, the section you were looking at for rental is where?
605, number 8.
Any other questions on content that anybody is seeing, please? We'll address those and then we'll go back to Councilor Crawford's. Because we have the ability to be able to set this with changes, if any, to be able to do that.
I think that would be a major change. So my suggestion would be, if you're going to strike that at all, to pass it the way it is in the emergency form and then strike it in the permanent.
Okay. I'm not even
It's not
saying,
gonna-
I'm not saying anybody's
Yeah.
going to lend one
But
way or the other.
if that's what you're going to do, that's what I would do tonight, because
Right.
In the interest of getting it on the books so that we can operate with the understanding full and well that it's an open topic for discussion.
Right. I don't think it's
When we
gonna
go to the
affect
final
anybody.
finished product, our plan is to look at that and either strike it or reinvent it however we choose, whatever
Right.
we choose.
Yeah, I just don't want to overreach is all.
No, I certainly hear where you're coming from. I'm kind of looking at the disqualifying drug offense definition as
I
it
was
goes.
looking at that too.
Yeah, no, so I just want to make sure that I'm okay with, if we're just looking to move forward in a temporary piece, to kind of grease the skids and make sure we're moving in the right direction to be ready for this when it comes due in December. But however, I don't feel like none of us feel like we want to rush. I think we've done our due diligence and then some with taking our time on this particular topic.
Yeah, I can live with it for an emergency.
What was the
Sorry, Cassie.
reasoning for including that with pawnbrokers?
You would probably have to ask the chief, please. They put together the pawnbroker application together with the police department, and they formed a committee to come up with those rules and regs. So I wouldn't know the background why.
Any idea why, sir? Or a best guess? If not, you can come back to us.
Yeah, I'd rather come back to you, to be honest with you, just so I don't say something that's completely out in left field. But it's usually to check the owner to make sure that if the owner of the property has some issues themselves, they're not just running it through a friend or something along those lines. But I'd rather check
Okay.
into it, to be honest.
Okay. And I would have no issue with that because we're talking about the temporary emergency right now anyways, and then we could flush the other out in the permanent. Okay. Anything else on content?
We're gonna
This is the
finely tune this later on.
this is the emergency one, right?
Okay, because there's a few things that.
Get out your Highliner, Chris.
Yeah, we don't need to know. We don't need to know. All this comes down to, in my opinion, is the state's already certified everything. Everything's done for the state. We're just doing the local licenses. Like we don't need to run background checks on people. We don't need their license information. We don't need any of that stuff. In my personal opinion.
No, it's proceeding with where we actually picked up at the last meeting is that we talked specifically that we're not going to limit the number of businesses. The fee was subject to interpretation for what the 500 or 1,500 that was thrown out at the previous meeting we thought was insulting to have every year. The 250 that's the recommendation of staff at this point is more in line with the business they think sits with the pawnbrokers, because there is background fees or costs the town will incur to be able to do those kinds of things. And that brings us to here now with the one piece on licensure to be able to address specific issues with one party, not holding everybody at that point hostage. So this is what staff's put together based on that for consideration. I've heard from Fern, knowing that he's out, he is okay with content as written. I've tried to actually solicit majority of you guys individually to find out where everybody stands. Does it speak to what the council was looking for to be able to address the licensure piece that we heard in the workshop?
Do we currently regulate pharmacies? I mean, if someone wanted to open a new pharmacy in town, is there a procedure to go through, or is it just considered like a standard business?
I don't do anything locally.
So there's no licensing procedure for like a Rite Aid or CVS.
I think it's all federal. I think
Yeah.
it's got to be all federal level, just
State
to
or
the nature
federal.
of what it is.
Unfortunately, in this circumstance.
Federal wouldn't relate.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, oh, no, I'm
Right.
talking, when
No, no,
I'm
no,
talking specific to your
but
example,
right.
that's all,
I
yeah.
thought that was where you were landing, is federal wouldn't relate, right?
Right. I mean, I think we're covering our bases. I mean, if you read the part about the background checks, for owners, officers, members, managers. I don't know if you know anything about LLCs, but you can have silent partners listed in there. And if they're going to have any part in this, you want to make sure that they can be part of that. So I don't think that that's over.
But that's
They
not.
they still need to be disclosed, is
Exactly
my
is
interpretation.
is what my point is that
Right. Right. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's okay. I'll have a lot to say about this later on when we.
The next
So-
meeting.
Then let's kind of put that, let's wrap it, you put a nice bow on it, let's wrap it back to where we're at, which is the emergency ordinance.
Yeah.
I think we all have some pretty strong opinions, and we all are pretty well versed in this stuff. So for tonight, for what we're trying to do, if we all are on the same page, sounds to me like we can get behind this, knowing full and well that this is just the beginning, the emergency piece, and that when we circle back for the final one, we can certainly tweak so that when we do that final roll call vote, we can all feel pretty comfortable about what's in there.
Yep.
Can we go slightly out of order? What action are we taking on 248 tonight? To
Well, if you're
Councilor
going to be
Crawford's,
making,
to Councilor Crawford's
we probably
point.
shouldn't take any action on it tonight
And what is
until I know exactly what your changes are going to be. Because to do the first reading, all the changes need to be in it.
right? But the emergency,
Emergency you can do just so we have something on the books. And then when you decide what changes you want to make, then we do the first
the
reading.
business application, once the 20th deadline
Go
with the
by
planning,
this.
we would go by this to be able to have something in
Yep.
place that we could
Right.
lift at a later date.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, so we're not creating additional barriers on that because
Nope.
this action item, the emergency ordinance, is show of hands, it actually becomes effective tonight.
Right.
And that buys us some time to be able to address the first and second readings of the other, which also
Yes.
requires
Which will be the
a public
permanent.
hearing.
Which will be
Yes.
the permanent
Yes,
one.
the other, yes.
Okay. And that seems to be more prudent for what timeline
Yeah.
for anybody that's in the limbo.
So you can't have a first reading and then make changes
Not-
before the.
No, but that's fine, because we're protected under the original.
I mean, if they were really minor changes, like, you know.
Date, amount.
Right, that's just, yeah, but it doesn't sound to me like they're gonna be minor, so we need to do those first.
What are the two that we got on the board right now that we have concerns about? No, 'cause I think
You guys have expressed concern over the definition of the disqualifying offense and the rental.
Yeah, I got
Section-
a few more too.
That's, but by all means, where
Okay.
what I wanted to be able to ask the question is, what if we're going to take any action on this for 248 tonight? What I would ask for when we get to it would be a motion to table to allow you guys to be able to give feedback to Diane. She sent an email out. Send it there. Copy the entire group to be able to know that it was recorded to be able to address this down the line. We good with that? I don't want to slow us up, but the fact that I know it's been out there, anybody seeing the content now, we're not losing time to be able to just work out the window dressing here.
So it's more like to put it on a future agenda, because you won't have a motion to table, right?
Right. Right.
We're still going to do 247, though.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Provided everybody's comfortable. That's why I was saying, the fact is, if you're seeing this to be able, can deal with it in the short term until we work out the specifics, that's why you're seeing it presented the way it is right now. Everybody good?
Yes.
I'm good.
That said, I will take a
Roll call vote.
motion. It's a roll call.
Motion, yeah.
We need a motion and a
I'll make a
second.
motion.
Second.
We have the first and we have the second, so now it's you, Twyla.
Counselor Albert?
Yes.
Counselor Colby?
Yes.
Counselor Brunel?
Abstention. Abstain.
Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Counselor Ward?
Yes.
Counselor La Rochelle's opposite. Counselor Crawford?
Yes.
Okay. So we have 5-0-1. Order passed.
So we need no action on 248 to put it on a future agenda, or do you need a motion for that?
Would you prefer just
No, you don't need to
good
get a motion.
consensus?
We know.
We're fine.
Okay. But in the 2-week period prior, well, before the next agenda goes out, which would be for what what's the meeting?
December 4.
That's our deadline to get back to you? What's the Friday before?
Oh,
December 1?
right here in front of us.
It
would be
the 30th.
November 30. Before November 30, could you provide
29.
29?
Thursday
Some
we
look at the side.
post it, but you probably want it Wednesday if you're going to do something.
Oh, yeah, 'cause it's got to be out.
Because we're going
28.
to post it the 29th.
28, because the 29th it will go out.
Diane's not gonna be
No,
here.
we need to put it out further
Further.
because I'm not going to have time to act on that.
Right.
I'm going to be gone.
But the temporary will protect us. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, yes, but
Okay,
just,
so
this isn't going to be ready for December 4th.
Right. Were you thinking the 18th? You're coming back.
Yes, the 18th.
Maybe
would
the
prob-
18th then.
Well,
I don't know.
and our other meeting
From
is
when
the
you get back.
17th that month.
the 18th.
Do you
18th?
back on the 4th?
Well, we're on. That's a Wednesday. That
Oh,
isn't.
17th.
You won't have much time for the 18th either.
Is it too much of a heartburn to actually say the fact that we deal with this the first meeting in January?
That would be better.
But
But didn't you
we
say
have
that
not
we
hurt
didn't have time?
anybody that has an application in that 60-day period of time.
Yeah, because whatever you give me for changes, I need to run that by legal
Mm-hmm.
as well to make sure. So that's,
But anybody that has a valid application that is
You're
turned
good.
in after November 20th has no additional time because they could go under the original.
exactly, it's going to go under this, the emergency.
Okay.
That doesn't expire, right? We have to actually repeal
We've
it.
repealed it, yeah.
You have to repeal it. Yeah.
Okay, 'cause as long as
Emergency ordinance is for
6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
Unless
Well,
you say it late earlier.
Didn't we do the moratorium? Same idea, and we actually played around with the
did.
time
We
frames
did.
because we were
Yep.
all.
Yep.
I know I wasn't super comfortable with doing it for 6 months. We peeled it back to 90 days.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for our first meeting in December, please get back to Diane, any feedback on any changes you would have for a permanent ordinance so we can flesh those
You
out
mean in
with legal.
January?
Well, I'm giving them to the first meeting in December so you can
okay.
flesh it out with Dan through
And
the
you have
month of
time.
December.
Actually, on the emergency declaration, it says the 91st, effective through the 91st day, so it's 90 days,
90 days.
90 days.
We
So
still
I'm
have
sure that
time.
we can
Yeah.
continue on that
Okay.
if we chose
Yeah,
to.
we can, yeah.
Yep.
Thank you, Mark, for
Okay.
pointing that out.
Just want to
Oh,
make
thank-
sure
no,
we're
I appreciate
aware
that.
of that.
So we good?
Yes, I'm good.
You get to her by our first meeting in December so she can take the month of December to flesh out that with Dan
Yep.
to have it ready for January.
Because we have that in the books, like you had said, anything, it doesn't stop the role of anybody who chooses in the meantime.
I'm
to-
just remembering a meeting that I sat in 2 weeks ago with timelines, and I'm not hearing that same timeline because you'd be covered under the emergency for anybody with a valid application that's accepted by the planning board after the 20th. That's what I'm hearing. That's what I needed to know.
It's about a 7-day difference in what timeline we were talking about before, because I thought it was.
Right now, greenlit, if you follow everything through the planning board, if it goes with an accepted application on their meeting of the 29th, you'd have 2 action items. It would take effect somewhere in the neighborhood of December 14th. That was in the information that Diane presented, which is
Yep.
why I asked for it that way, to be able to know planning board action, anything we created with licensure, what does that do to the individual? Okay.
And on the outcome of that on the 14th, they would actually become the council on the 18th, correct? For a yay or a nay?
On the permanent ordinance?
Covered under this.
The actual
It's going to
removal.
have to start with council on December 4th,
To set a
the
public hearing.
application, to set a public hearing for them to hear it on the 18th, which
Right.
will be after the
13th meeting.
13th meeting,
Right.
yes, that will work. But it's got to start on the 4th.
And we're good with that piece. Again, it was referencing back where,
No, I know what you're
This
saying. The
board's
timeline's
action-
changed just an iota, is
Right.
what you're saying here, yeah.
everything is a planning board recommendation. We set it in motion.
Right, best possible case scenario, I should have probably qualified that. Best
Exactly.
possible case scenario is that everything goes, with no snags.
Right.
Yep.
All right. Moving on, 2018-249.
I think you want to put that
Leave
on
that
a
for the
future
other, right?
agenda as well,
Yep,
probably,
thank you.
right?
That's what I would say. 250.
Or do
These
you
are
need
push.
that?
Are you going to
Start the
change the fee?
application, though.
Is anybody,
No?
if everybody's okay with the fee, I would do the, then you should do
249?
that tonight, yeah.
All right, I make
Adam.
I make a motion to accept the
Fee as
fee
presented.
schedule. Yep.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Would it pass 6-0? Okay.
Sorry, Twyla, I cannot raise my hand.
5,
yeah.
501.
Which one was, oh, Chris. Thank you.
250. Higgins.
Authorization, to authorize land use action 1 Higgins Road.
Excuse me.
So we're just asking council to allow myself and the code enforcement officer to begin legal action on 1 Higgins Road for a land use violation. We've issued a notice of violation, and that time has expired, so the next step is to go to court.
I'm good with that. Anybody
Yep.
have any questions?
Simple next steps regarding handling ordinances.
I need a motion.
Make the motion.
I need a second. All in favor?
5. How about anybody opposed?
5-1.
All right. And it carries.
Next.
Order 2018-251, underage drinking enforcement grant.
Good evening, Mark Hagan, Chief of Police. So the police department is requesting permission to apply for and accept and then spend grant monies. And the grant monies that we're looking to apply for are from the Department of Health and Human Services. Every year they offer funding which is used to enforce underage drinking laws. And this year they're going through Dirigo Safety out of Auburn. They've been contracted by DHHS to provide local administrative services and sub-grants to local law enforcement agencies. So what we would like to do is apply for a sub-grant of approximately $5,000, which we would use to conduct enforcement details, usually around prom time, school vacations, and graduation. We'd also use it to conduct compliance checks at local businesses. So basically right now we're just seeking permission to apply for and then accept the money if it's given out.
Any questions of Chief? We go through this same shopping list. It varies slightly from year to year, but
I'll make the motion.
I need a second. All in favor?
6-0, order passed.
Thank you, sir.
Very much.
Thank you.
Next.
Good-looking beard, too.
Yeah.
Other business, council committee reports.
School.
They had a meeting tonight and talked about some good things going on with the enrollments in all of the schools, and more importantly, some of the cool stuff that happened in the C-SPAN bus, just as one of the highlights. Nice little presentation by the high school. Came in here, and some of our local elected officials, along with some of their folks who captained the bus there, giving some real good information to our kids. So overall, pretty good stuff.
Planning, I'd have to say that I don't have anything to present tonight. LDC, anybody? Conservation. They actually have a meeting coming up in the future, so that'd be a future meeting. Recreation.
I haven't had a chance to touch base with Mark.
County, I'm hoping Mark's got a better report than I would.
Yes, we did vote on the final county budget numbers, and the insurance had been estimated to be up 10%, but it was only up 5%, so there's actually some good savings there. So that'll bring down the county assessment on us by measurable amount. So that should be good. That's our final report, and they pass it along to the county commissioners, who I believe the county manager recommended to them that they should approve the changes we made.
Thank you, sir. Library?
The new floor is in at the library, and it looks very nice. And they also did some painting while the shelves are out of there. And the Friends of the Library raised some money to get those walls painted, so it looks like a really nice new facility in there now. And there's a lot of work by volunteers and all the people, the staff of the library, to move those books and shelves out and then get it back in after the new carpet. And the new carpet now is in squares that can be removed individually, so if there's damage to some parts of it, they can just remove those rather than have to take up the entire floor and do that all again. So it should be a good improvement for the future.
Manager.
I just have one item. After our Moxie Festival meeting we had back along, I checked with the insurance company about a premium for event cancellation insurance. Should we have rain during Moxie like we did a couple of years ago and we couldn't have the car show? So they just got back to me this week with a premium to cover us for everything. It's about $1,250 a year, and I think it's money well spent because you never know if it's going to rain or not. And Mark makes a lot more than that in revenue, so it's net revenue. So you take out what your expenses are and what the revenue you expect to get in, and then you're covered for the net amount of that.
Which is just ballpark for me.
I think it was like 19,000.
Okay.
Pretty close. But it's it's date specific. So if you have
7,000 for the car show.
exactly, because you may just have rain on Sunday and everything else will happen. But if it rains the whole entire weekend, then you're going to get the coverage. Or if you have Saturday and you can't have your parade, and so it's specific by date.
So
So it's Friday through Sunday.
Okay.
And if you're all set with that, I'll go ahead and sign it and get the binding coverage on it.
I'm always a devil's advocate here. I'm sorry. Do we have any other folks who have used this insurance before, and we can get, or is there any way to get a kind of gauge if someone's had to use this before and if they had to jump through a boatload of hoops to get that? I want to make sure that if we're going to drop $1,250, it does seem like a great investment. We want to make sure we cover ourselves if we have bad weather, but I want to know that the folks that
$1,250
we're
is
going
going to
with,
pay.
and that they're going to deliver. I mean, they could find 1,000,001 reasons why they don't have to.
Are there stipulations on like rain amounts?
No.
So it could be like a drizzle and we cancel it and then they pay, or does it have to?
If we cancel it because of the weather, then they'll pay the net effect. Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to know that because
Is this through MMA
seems too good
insurance?
to be
No,
true.
this is through our insurance. If you want, we can wait. I've got until I think the 23rd. Is the quote is valid through the 23rd, but we can deal with it in December, and
Let's get
I may have to do it all over.
specific detail on what they
All
can
I
do
know
to
is
not
this,
pay us before we pay
When
them.
Jean was working on this, she said this was a very good company that she goes through for this type of sport, recreation, and entertainment.
Jean is who?
Yeah, who's Jean?
Jean Payne, she's our agent
Okay.
from Shampoo.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, I guess does she have another client that's
I can
signed
ask
up
her.
for this?
I can ask
And have
her,
they ever
yep.
used it? I want to get that detail. I want to know
Yep.
that.
Yep.
They
Please.
do insurance for everything, apparently now.
Everything.
I know that seemed like
I'm not hearing
simple
anybody opposed to it. It's just fact checking to be able to know what we're actually paying for.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you brought a nice easy
So if
softball.
I-
Made it tough.
So if I call her and ask her to give me some other people that have used it, and I feel comfortable, do you want me to go ahead and bind it?
Yeah, I think what I want to know though is I think it's the important thing here is to get us some details, some data that says, yeah, these guys paid on this time for this festival. I mean, whether we're familiar with it or not, I just want to know. And if it was a 3-day festival and they canceled on one day, how did that? I mean, was there a lot of hoops that they had to jump through? I mean, I just don't want an agent telling us. Yeah.
I kind of like.
Are we
to know
good
the
with pushing-
specifics of the policy as well,
Yeah,
like
I've
all
got
the
it
fine
right-
print.
Yeah. I can send you a copy of it.
Are you okay with her pushing that out to us electronically?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Yeah.
what I'm trying to avoid is actually having the sunset on the policy date go and she
prefer
has to redo the
electronically,
work.
yeah.
Right. If you can do that,
Copy to all of us.
we
Send a copy to all of us electronically.
Yep. I can do that.
she needs to pull the trigger because she's gone the 21st.
Yeah.
So
Hey, if
I'd
I'm
li-
asking
I'd
for
like-
it,
I'd
you
like
send
to
it
have her
tomorrow,
be
I'll
able
read
to
it. That
empower
way I
to do it.
can't hold
Yeah.
you hostage here. I don't have any problem.
I will make sure they read the content and get back to you by that date.
Yep.
That's on me. They like my
I didn't
nudges.
even, know that they had insurance, but at that meeting we went to, the Moxie meeting, somebody who, remember that?
I remember, yeah.
He said that they bought it years ago when they were doing the Moxie Festival.
Yep.
And
Oh,
I
yeah.
think
That was,
but I think they had to use it
It-
too,
it's-
so.
it-
But I
Hey, actually, he didn't
So
take
that's-
credit. He said his wife did because she was just following.
Exactly. And I think they had to use it.
the
too. They
Lawrences.
cashed in,
That was the
so.
Lawrences that
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what gave me the idea to look at.
that was
Thank
the-
you, and I'm glad you did. 'Cause I think
That
we'll
sounds
move-
like
Well, I
something
mean,
the noise
2
would
years
say.
ago, the car show was rained out and we didn't get the revenue. That's a lot of revenue too.
they do a great job.
Yeah.
Well, even
You just never know.
that
Department-
Saturday, it was pretty wet.
Department written reports. Those are here. If anybody have questions on any of the content. I'm going to pick on Mark because it stands right off the page and I drive past it on a regular basis. Is there ever intent to actually fix the area of the trench that they put in on South Avenue to actually possibly pave that? That road looks like
Where?
ass now. It doesn't need any favors with digging a trench into the middle of it.
I don't know what you're talking about now.
His garden space, we put in the water hookup that we've been talking about for a year. They dug right out into the street and they didn't repave it.
Yeah, I think they're going to be doing something with that.
If we could just remind Tom to actually follow up, if it has to follow through Mark, like I said, to quote my counselor to my right, it needs a hug and a kiss on that road. It looks like ass.
Yeah.
Well, a little piece, but yes.
Anything else?
Steve is here to give you winter
I know he is.
operations update.
He's so excited about to get up here, too.
Yeah.
I can see it in his eyes.
He wrote that down? You're a good man, Steve. Don't you ass. It's
If I
two
don't, I'll
S's.
forget. Good evening. I'm Steve Avioli, Sewer Superintendent. Filling in for Tom Martin, who's out on medical leave right now with winter operations update. This is something he basically wrote. I believe all of you have seen a copy of it. I'm going to get down through it. And just like to definitely want to say the way he did this before he got into this update, he wanted to express his sincere thanks to the crews at Public Works and the transfer station. They've been shorthanded for a length of time now, and the crew should be commended for stepping up and keeping the level of service where it needed to be to keep the traveling public safe. As well, the transfer station has been shorthanded almost weekly, and need to perform their task even under duress has been a priority for the crew. So he wanted to make sure to give a little shout out to them for doing a good job for the position they're in. When the construction season's coming to a close, the crews have done a fantastic job closing projects up, even though most times they have basically have had a fraction of their workforce. Paving program's grinding to a close. We're still trying to finalize paving on a couple of the streets and getting a couple ground, which that schedule, some of it was supposed to happen today. With the weather, that didn't happen, which we're still trying to work that out. But and he has in here, the wet fall has crippled many of the contractors hoping to get projects finished for the winter. We will only have binder on a couple roads going into winter, and Madeline and Whitney streets will be reclaimed and left gravel for the winter. The crack sealing program will begin in the spring. Patching is a priority right now, and making sure all of our roads are secured to accept the snowplow. And shoulder program, which completed a paving bond program, was almost complete, and so we started getting in these basically endless rainstorms. They're really hurting getting a lot of this type of work done. And we'll return to the shoulders in the spring, dress up and seed them and mulch them. His winter maintenance plan, he said all our materials are stockpiled, salt, sand, and liquid calcium. Trucks have their headgear on, sander and plows are ready. All pickups have been harnessed up with plows and tested. Plow routes have been reviewed and adjusted as necessary. Crew levels have been replenished for the most part with transfers, new hires, and help from other departments.
We will need to do some aggressive training with a few new hires, but he feels that they will adapt quickly. We are still down 2 mechanics. And he wanted to thank Duncan Daly, who was a former mechanic who basically he retired from here, and he's come out of retirement to help us out in this time of need. He's working 3 days a week to help us get through this crisis we're dealing with now. As almost every town in our area is looking for mechanics, and we're just going to continue advertising until we can fill those positions, which hasn't been easy, because just like what we're going through, there's several towns been advertising for mechanics for 2, 3, 4 months now, and they're not filling those positions. So it's a struggle.
Refresh my memory. If you don't know, you can take notes and get the answer from Tom and present it to us. How many plow routes do we have?
I actually have the list right in my truck.
No.
I know there's 3 pickup truck plow routes, and I believe there is 5 big truck routes and 1 loader route.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, we have 6 plow routes of varying sizes?
No. 9.
Yeah, 9 altogether. There's
I don't know
5.
your math is. I know you went to Lisbon, but
Where did I blew them
5.
he said 3, he said 5, and then he said 1.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
I mean, if
5,
we're
1,
doing
and
the
3,
math,
Yeah, 5, 1, and 3.
I don't want to hold. I don't
5
want to
and
hold
1
you.
is 6. I forgot the 3 originally. Right.
I don't want to.
Pesky pickup.
Okay, so when you say plow routes have been adjusted, we have 9 bodies to fill those 9 plow routes?
Technically, they're adjusting to be able to cover all the roads. It's all the seats are not filled, as far as I know.
Correct. So we don't have enough drivers.
Yeah.
We're talking about guys going on the large routes first and coming back and hitting the pickup routes. Am I hearing that right?
Yeah, we're basically filling the pickup seats where the operations manager is going to have a seat. We have new hires with Class C license. They're going to be one of them will be filling the seat. I believe we're going to have a seasonal person that's basically going to help us out nights and weekends.
Right.
That's going to be in a pickup route also for now.
So we're putting our
could
trained
be wrong.
staff in the big trucks.
Yes.
So at this point, how many vacancies do we have going into snow ops? And I'm counting, I'm not holding it against him, but if we have a PW director that is out for 6 weeks on medical, the effect is any event in the next 6 weeks, we're down a body. How many are missing at this point?
I know we're missing 1 for sure, technically 2 if we're counting the transfer station position. Because if he does, he's technically going to be moving to Public Works, that's going to leave that position vacant for a commercial driver for a big truck.
Okay.
And we have Zach Breton from the sewer department is going to be filling in for one of those positions. Elwood Beal told me today that he's already talked to Zach, which I've been trying to stay out of that conversation because that's between Public Works and Zach. As long as his work gets done at the sewer department, he can plow as much as he wants.
Right.
And Elwood told me he did talk to him, and Zach's going to be filling one of those seats in the interim.
Okay. Questions?
I don't want to get in the day-to-day ops. I had some ideas, but I thought it'd be better just to bite my tongue and let them sort it out right now.
Correct.
But they did what we asked. The fact is, they asked for winter operations coming into this, knowing that it's not been a direct route to this point.
It's better than this. What are you guys going to do?
Right.
Yeah, I think they got a plan.
Right.
And do you know of any people who are on the Public Works who are seeking other employment?
That I do not.
Yeah, we're dwelling again.
That's
Okay. I thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Steve.
Next.
Lisbon Emergency Quarterly Reports.
Tell us nice things.
John Quartz, Captain of Lisbon Emergency. Chief was not able to attend. He was on vacation. It's his birthday, I believe. Yep.
Happy birthday.
Doesn't want to be here? What the heck? It's a great birthday party.
I'll read the letter that he sent out to the town council. On behalf of the officers and members of Lisbon Emergency, I would like to thank the town councilors and Bowdoin Selectmen for giving Lisbon Emergency the opportunity to present an update on November 13th. One of the goals that Lisbon Emergency has said is to reduce the subsidy that Lisbon and Bowdoin provides Lisbon Emergency. Through strong financial planning and financial responsibility, Lisbon Emergency is currently on the way to meet this goal. Instead of purchasing a brand new ambulance to replace the 2000 Road Rescue Ambulance, which is designated 402. Members spent many hours online to find a low-mileage used ambulance that would fit the needs of the Lisbon emergency. We have saved over $100,000 versus purchasing a new ambulance, and the lifespan is approximately 2 years shorter versus purchasing new. Lisbon Emergency is working very hard to find and apply for grants. We have applied for the Maine Emergency Agency grant, which will be announced for recipients within the next few weeks. Since this letter was written, we have received that grant. If Lisbon Emergency is awarded, we were awarded the grant. The savings would be $4,500 for a new generator. This generator is for the water tower for our repeater radio, and $3,500 for a new base radio. This was items that were in our CPI also. Lisbon Emergency is looking to have a capital improvement fundraising event. The funds raised would go to purchasing a new power stretcher load system for our ambulance 401. The power stretcher load system would benefit Lisbon Emergency by increasing patient safety, securing the stretcher to the ambulance, and reducing employee back injuries. The officers will be working on updating the business plan within the next month. The revised business plan should be completed by mid-spring, but it's going to most likely be late winter for budget, because we need to get that done before the budget. Lisbon Emergency still remains very active in the community. We have set a goal to train over 100 community members in CPR at no cost or a much reduced rate. Currently, Lisbon Emergency has trained or is scheduled to train around 86 community members. The best emergency medical care that can be provided is prevention. We are planning after the holiday season on holding blood pressure information clinics. Lisbon Emergency is working with Lisbon Police on educating young drivers on seatbelt use and the dangers of texting while driving. This is a brief summary of Lisbon Emergency's recent and upcoming community service. The biggest challenge facing Lisbon Emergency, along with all fire and EMS service in Maine, is staffing. It has been a challenge to hire new providers, especially at the medical level. We have been able to hire 6 new providers since July and will continue to aggressively recruit in order to increase staffing. Lisbon Emergency's board has transitioned to having 2 representatives appointed by the Lisbon Town Manager, one from Bolton and one from Bowdoin. Lydia Colston, the Lisbon Finance Director, was appointed as Treasurer and Secretary of our board. We are reporting financials monthly to our board budget committee, which is comprised of myself, the Chief, George Roy, and Lydia Colston. To the treasurer, which is Lydia, as well as to the towns of Lisbon and Bowdoin. A copy gets sent to the town manager for Lisbon and the selectman for Bowdoin. And he has attached the his first quarter financials.
Any questions or content for John? Thank you. Appreciate it.
And your building's looking good. And your building's looking good.
Next.
Under appointments, Order 2018-252, the Associate Member for Planning Board resignation, Eric McTevier.
We need to accept that. I would take a motion, please.
Did he have a reason, or he just decided he had enough, or?
He was, I believe that the reason was that he was on moral grounds, and we'll just leave it at that.
I'll make a motion.
Need a second? Mark's my second.
All right. I'll second that.
All in favor?
6-0. Okay, order passed.
Now,
We'll advertise on the board, but I do have one application in so far, but we haven't advertised vacancy. I was waiting for you to accept the resignation.
no, he was an associate, not a full member, so it doesn't impact somebody moving up to full, right? Because he and Mr. Cool used to bounce back and forth of who had voting rights.
Right.
Okay, so we would replace somebody at that level. Okay. Yes, please, if you could do so. Next.
Counselor Communications.
Anybody? Nope, moving right along.
Audience participation for new items.
Anybody got something they'd like to air for the next? Seeing no movement, moving.
There is no executive session. It's Order 2018-253 to adjourn.
Make the motion.
I'll second.
6-0.
Thank you all.
It's 8:05.
We really should have brought paper, scissors on this.
Whoa.